There is a moment in every transfer window when Arsenal fans start to feel that familiar excitement. A big name gets linked with the club, the rumours start building, and suddenly everyone is debating whether this could be the signing that pushes the Gunners over the top. Sandro Tonali is that name right now. The Newcastle United midfielder has been directly linked with a move to Arsenal. It is not some vague social media rumour. The situation is concrete enough that Arsenal actually explored a potential deadline day move for the 25-year-old Italian during the January transfer window. That is a significant detail. It means this was not just a passing interest. Decision-makers at Arsenal were actively considering what a deal for Tonali would look like. The reason for that interest in January was clear and it was urgent. Mikel Merino, one of Arsenal's key midfield options, picked up an injury. Suddenly the depth in that area of the pitch looked concerning. Arsenal needed to act, or at least seriously consider acting. Tonali was identified as a potential solution. In the end, no deal was done. Arsenal decided to trust the squad they already had for the remainder of the season, but the interest did not disappear. It simply got pushed forward. And now the summer transfer window is where all eyes are focused when it comes to Tonali and his future. The question now is not just whether Arsenal want him. The question is whether signing him would actually make Arsenal better. And that is where it gets really interesting. The stakes, let us think carefully about what is genuinely at stake here for Arsenal Football Club. Right now, Arsenal are not a struggling side trying to find their feet. The reality for the club is that they are in a remarkable position. They are fighting for the Premier League title. They are going deep in the Champions League. They are still alive in the Carabao Cup. This is a squad that is performing at the highest level. So any addition to this squad has to genuinely improve it. It cannot be a signing for the sake of making noise or satisfying the fan base. It has to be the right player in the right position at the right time. And that is exactly where the debate around Tonali becomes so important, because there are serious voices with real Arsenal experience who are saying that midfield is not where Arsenal need to spend their money this summer. If Arsenal get this wrong, the consequences are real. You are talking about a player who would cost significant money. Newcastle United have made it clear that they place enormous value on Tonali. Spending that kind of resource on a player who might end up as a fifth choice option in his own position would be a damaging error in judgment, not just financially, but in terms of squad balance and the ability to reinvest in areas that genuinely need attention. So the stakes here are not just about one player, they are about how Arsenal allocate their resources and whether the decision makers at the club truly understand where the gaps are. If you want this level of analysis on every major Arsenal story this season, please hit that subscribe button right now. The Mellisa Arsenal Analyst channel is committed to giving you the full picture, not just the headlines. Subscribe and make sure you never miss a video. Now let us go step by step through everything we know and what it all means. First, let us establish the facts around the Arsenal midfield as it currently stands. The evidence suggests that Arsenal already possess considerable quality in central midfield. Martin Zubimendi is there, Declan Rice is there, Mikel Merino, currently injured, will return, and Christian Norgard has also been part of the squad. Now, Anders Limpar, a man who played over 100 appearances for Arsenal across a 4-year spell at the club, has come out with a direct and clear opinion. He believes Arsenal should not sign Sandro Tonali. His reasoning is straightforward. He counts 5 world-class players in that midfield position at Arsenal already. Zubimendi, Rice, Merino, who will come back from injury, and Norgard, who he describes as unbelievable. Limpar's point is that Tonali would walk into that squad as a 5th choice option. He is not questioning Tonali's quality. He actually describes the Italian as and I am quoting here, a hell of a player. But quality alone is not the issue. Fit is the issue, and Limpar does not believe the fit is right. He specifically highlights Norgard as someone who is not getting the game time he deserves. According to Limpar, Norgard is not playing regularly because Zubimendi and Rice are performing at such a high level that the manager simply cannot find room for him. His argument is that adding Tonali would simply deepen that problem without solving anything. This is a really important analytical point. It is not just about whether you can afford a player. or whether the player is good enough. It is about whether the player has a genuine pathway to meaningful contribution. If Tonali joins Arsenal and finds himself playing occasional cup games and coming off the bench in league matches, that serves nobody, not the player, not the club, and not the fans who want to see their squad firing on all cylinders. Now let us be precise about something. Limpar's view is an opinion. It is an informed opinion from someone with Arsenal experience and real football knowledge, but it is still an opinion. The confirmed facts are that Arsenal explored the transfer in January, no deal was done, and interest reportedly continues ahead of the summer window. What is also clear is that midfield is one of the 3 priority positions that Sporting Director Andrea Berta is working on for the summer. The situation is that Arsenal plan to be active in the transfer market across 3 areas: right back, central midfield and the winger position. That is confirmed. So even though there are questions about whether midfield is genuinely needed, the club itself is planning to bring in a midfielder. The debate then shifts to whether Tonali specifically is the right one. Now let us talk about the wider competition for Tonali's signature, because this is relevant to understanding the urgency of the situation. Manchester United are also watching Sandro Tonali. That is a fact that Arsenal and their supporters cannot ignore. This is not a situation where Arsenal can take their time and leisurely decide whether they want him. There is genuine competition. If the Gunners dither or decide they are not sure, another major club could move in and that door closes permanently. The reality of the modern transfer market is that elite midfielders with Tonali's profile do not become available very often. Newcastle United are a club with ambition of their own, and they are not looking to sell their best players without significant compensation. Any deal for Tonali is going to require serious financial commitment from whichever club pursues him. So Arsenal face a genuine dilemma. They have been advised by a former player with real knowledge of the club to look elsewhere and trust what they have, but the club's own planning suggests midfield is an area they intend to strengthen. An arrival in Manchester United is circling the same target. This is where the quality of Arsenal's decision-making in the transfer market really matters. Andrea Berta has done excellent work since joining the club. He signed 8 players last summer, and that has contributed directly to Arsenal's current success in multiple competitions. He has also secured the futures of key players, including Gabriel Magalhaes, William Saliba, Miles Lewis-Skelly, Ethan Nwaneri, and most recently Bukayo Saka. The trust Arsenal fans place in Berta is well earned, but every sporting director faces decisions where the right answer is not obvious, and the Tonali question is exactly that kind of decision. Let us now look at what makes Tonali attractive to Arsenal in the first place, because it is important to understand why this name keeps coming up. At 25 years of age, Tonali represents a player in the prime window of his development. He is old enough to have experience and maturity, but young enough to have his best years ahead of him. For a club like Arsenal, that age profile matters. You are not just buying what he is now, you are buying what he will become over the next 5 to 7 years. He is an Italian international midfielder with the technical quality and physical profile to compete at the very highest level. The fact that Arsenal was seriously considering him in January, even in a moment of injury crisis, tells you that the scouts and decision makers at the club believe in his quality. This was not a panic buy consideration. This was a considered option that was genuinely on the table. The situation now is that Arsenal will need to make a proper decision about him in the summer. A full pre-season assessment, a clear picture of the squad's needs, and a determination of whether the resources required to sign him are better spent elsewhere. Now, let us bring in the broader context of Arsenal's summer planning, because Tonali does not exist in isolation. He is one piece of a much larger transfer puzzle. The right-back position is also a priority. Ben White's future at the club is uncertain. He has played limited football and has reportedly become aware himself that a departure could be the next step in his career. Tino Livramento of Newcastle United has been linked as a potential replacement for White. Interestingly, this would mean Arsenal potentially targeting 2 players from the same club in the same window. That is logistically and diplomatically complex. On the winger front, Anthony Gordon is described as a player Arsenal are favourites to sign. Gordon, who also plays for Newcastle United, is said to prefer a move to the Emirates Stadium ahead of interest from Liverpool and Manchester United. So the possibility exists that Arsenal could be approaching Newcastle for as many as 3 players in one summer. Livramento at right back, Tonali in midfield, and Gordon on the wing. That is a remarkable situation when you think about it. And it raises serious questions about how Newcastle would respond to such an approach, and whether the financial and diplomatic demands of 3 simultaneous negotiations with one club are realistic. But let us not get ahead of ourselves. These are all rumours at this stage. What we can say with confidence is that Arsenal are planning to be active in the summer. The 3 priority areas are clear, and multiple players from Newcastle United have been identified as potential targets. Now let us return to the Tonali debate specifically, and what Limpar's intervention actually means for how we should think about this. Limpar made a point about Christian Norgard that deserves more attention. He said that Norgard is not playing regularly, not because he is not good enough, but because Zubimendi and Rice are performing at such a high level that the manager simply cannot find room for him. His view is that if Norgard were trusted and given regular minutes, he would be unbelievable for Arsenal. This is an argument about opportunity and depth management, and it is a legitimate one when you have players of genuine quality who cannot get into the starting 11. Adding another body in that position creates problems rather than solutions. You end up with frustrated players, disrupted team chemistry, and resources tied up in someone who is not contributing as much as they should be. The counter-argument, of course, is that across a season where Arsenal are competing in 4 competitions simultaneously, depth is not just useful, it is essential. Injuries happen, suspensions happen, fatigue sets in over a long season. Having 5 quality midfielders might feel like a luxury, but for a club genuinely competing at the top of domestic and European football, that kind of depth is what separates the teams that win trophies from the teams that fall short. Mourinho himself missed time through injury this season. That created the panic that led to Arsenal exploring Tonali in January. If Arsenal had more depth in midfield, that January scramble would never have happened. And you could argue that having Tonali available during that period could have made a meaningful difference. So both sides of this argument have genuine merit. Limpar is not wrong to raise the depth concerns, but the club's own planning suggests they have also weighed those concerns and still believe midfield reinforcement is a priority. What I believe the evidence suggests is this: Arsenal are not going to sign Sandro Tonali purely because he is a brilliant player. Any deal will depend on a very clear assessment of whether the squad actually needs him, whether the financial demands are reasonable, and whether the competition from Manchester United and potentially other clubs makes the deal viable. Berta has shown he is a disciplined operator. He does not spend money for the sake of it. He identifies targets carefully, moves patiently, and delivers quality. If Tonali fits the plan, a deal will be pursued seriously. If the numbers do not make sense or the squad picture changes, Arsenal will look elsewhere. The situation for Newcastle United is also worth noting. They are a club that, like Arsenal, has ambitions of their own. Selling Tonali, Livramento and Gordon in the same window would be an extraordinary level of disruption that no competitive club would willingly accept. So the reality is, not all 3 of these deals are likely to happen simultaneously. Arsenal will need to prioritise, and if Arsenal have to choose between the 3, the question of which position is most urgent becomes critical. Right back seems most pressing, given Ben White's uncertain future and the clear need for a long-term solution there. The winger position is also arguably more urgent than midfield, given the existing depth Limpar highlighted. Which brings us back to where we started. Should Arsenal sign Sandro Tonali this summer? The honest analytical answer, based purely on the facts and expert opinion available, is that it depends entirely on how Arsenal assess their own needs and how the negotiations unfold. The interest is real. The competition from Manchester United is real. The concerns about depth management are real, and the club's own commitment to signing a midfielder this summer is real. What is not yet clear is whether Tonali specifically is the answer, or whether Arsenal will identify a different midfield target who fits the profile better and comes at a more manageable cost. Closing thoughts: here is what we know for certain coming out of all of this. Arsenal are in an extraordinary moment. They are competing for the Premier League, the Champions League and the Carabao Cup simultaneously. The squad Berta has built is performing at the highest level, and yet the club is not standing still. 3 positions are being actively worked on for the summer: right back, central midfield, and the winger role. Sandro Tonali sits right at the heart of the midfield debate. A former Arsenal player with real experience of this club believes the Gunners do not need him. The club's own planning suggests midfield is still a priority. Manchester United are watching. Newcastle United value him highly, and the age profile and quality of the player make him an attractive long-term option. The decision that Andrea Berta makes in the coming months on this specific question will tell us a great deal about how Arsenal view their own squad and where they truly believe the gaps are. This is a conversation that is going to run right the way through to the summer, and we will be here on Mellisa Arsenal Analyst to cover every development as it happens. If you found this analysis useful, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button if you want more content like this, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Arsenal should sign Sandro Tonali? Or do you agree with Limpar that the midfield is already strong enough? Let me know what you think. Thank you for watching. We will see you in the next one.